Welcome back to Giant Monster Games. My name is Ted, and this week we're going to be playing the Hunted Orb deck. So let's take a look. This opening hand's pretty bad. We only have colorless mana available to us. We're going to ship that. Okay, so we have an orb. We actually have two orbs. It'd be nice if we were guaranteed a land. I think we're going to keep it on the basis that we should have a land. Let's keep it. We get a scry, so perfect. Exactly what we wanted to be seeing. Okay, so we're going to throw a swamp out, and then we'll pass it to our opponent. Okay, so our opponent's got a Bloodstained Mire. They crack it. Sacred Foundry. So what are we going against? Burn? Okay, so our opponent gets in for 1. And we'll throw that second land out there and follow up with Torpor Orb. And back to our opponent. So right now our game plan's probably just to throw out an Eater of Days there next turn. Or not Eater of Days, wow. A Treacherous Pit-Dweller, sorry, I was looking over here. Okay, so they suspended a Rift Bolt. They suspended 2 Rift Bolts, okay. Okay, so our opponent's going to get in for 1. Okay, so we have an Avatar of Discord. Not really too helpful right here. But we are going to run out the Pit-Dweller. Get some damage on the field. Okay, so our opponent's going to take a second to read him, which I'd advise doing if I were them. Okay, so here comes the bolts. Let's see if they read Torpor Orb and they target him at all. Okay, so they didn't read the orb. They're trying to get a 5/4. Okay, so they got their second bolt. This one's going right towards our face. Now we have to be very careful here. I'm going to advise that we don't block because they have 2 open mana and we know that they'll at the very least pump their Swift Spear enough to kill our Treacherous Pit-Dweller, but more than likely they're just going to bolt it or Searing Blaze or something. Yeah, here comes the bolt, followed by bolt. So we're going down to 4. Ouch. Alright. What to do. Exiling things from his graveyard doesn't do anything. We really needed that third land to keep progressing our board state, but we just never got there. So let's throw out Sundial the Infinite. And unfortunately we have to keep the Pit-Dweller back on defense. Yeah. Alright, we'll send it over to our opponent. So let's take a quick second to think about what are we going to bring in against Burn. Let's see. Infest might be a good one, although I don't think this one's running that many creatures. Wrench Mine's good. Make them throw away all their burn because they really have a hard time generating their hand back after it's been disrupted. Other than that, I think Wrench Mine's our only really good play to bring in. Maybe a Ratchet Bomb, but we can definitely go down a lot of removal. Oh, sorry to keep our opponent waiting. And Boros Charm, that'll do it. Alright, so let's concede and we'll go to the sideboard. Okay, so like I said, we can go down some removal. And we're going to go down these Doom Blades here. And we will go up Wrench Mine for that discard. Then we can get some Extirpates in here because they're going to have lots of cards going to their graveyard, and we can get rid of some some kill spells in our deck or in their deck, or some burn. Yeah, I'll probably just go down the Victims of Night. And I think we'll run it like this. Hopefully they didn't bring in some artifact hate against us. Yes, we would like to go first. Okay, so this is basically a very good opening hand. I will keep this 100%. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw out the Duress. We're going to take one of the spells that we don't like the most. And the following turn we will, depending on what we draw, extirpate it. Okay, so the only thing they kept is destructive revelry, which is great because that is artifact hate they brought in. So we'll pass the turn back to our opponent, knowing we probably just got rid of half of their artifact removal suite. Okay, so they're going to play Wooded Foothills and crack it. They got a Sacred Foundry. And they cast Riftbolt. Okay, so decision time. I think we're going to have to go for the orb, because if we don't go for the orb, excuse me, if we, I think we have to go for the orb, because they're going to have a really hard time dealing with Hunted Horror. Because it's burn, they don't have a direct kill target creature, and we have the okay to throw out the orb right now, because I'm assuming they don't have another Destructive Revelry. They probably only have 2 in the entire sideboard, so half of those are gone right now. Odds are they don't have it. Okay, so we got Riftbolt coming in off the stack. And they bolt our face. Okay, so we're going to have an Eidolon of the Great Revel. Okay, perfect. So right now we can get rid of the Destructive Revelries altogether and throw out a Hunted Horror. So this is going to make us take 2 damage for each spell we cast with under 3 CMC. Now, the Torpor Orb isn't that important right now because we already have our Horror resolved. So what are we going to do? Are we going to take the extra 2 damage against a very... I don't think so. I think we're going to hold on to the Extirpate strictly because we want to keep our life total high. So we're going to throw it back to our opponent's turn and see what they do. Okay, so opponent throws out a land, and they pass it back to us, which is kind of what I expected them to do. So I'm going to throw out Avatar of Discord, I think. No, I don't know, actually. It's pretty much anything that doesn't say hit target player in their deck can destroy it. Of course, it's taking burn away from our face. And we're taking 2 for it. Yeah, we'll throw it out there, why not? And we'll pass it over to our opponent. So our opponent really needs to... they need to absolutely get rid of the Avatar or the Horror this turn. They don't have any choices. Even if they Helix us, they don't have enough life to survive. Okay, so there goes our Avatar. But they're taking damage from the Eidolon. Yeah, that's the only downside about the Avatar. It's just so fragile, but the evasion makes it really, really good. So I think that's the big game plan we have to have against this deck, is just throw something huge out there they can't deal with. Like another Hunted Horror. Alright, so I'm going to throw Hunted Horror into the red, and our opponent will have to chump block. And so that way, after I've killed it, I can cast another Hunted Horror without having to worry about any damage from the Eidolon. Okay, so they're going to Lightning Helix our face. That's fine. And right now we're going to take their ability to gain any life away from them. Okay, and we got a quick look at their library right here. Okay, so they actually have 4 copies of Destructive Revelry in their deck, because they've already gotten rid of 1. That is something very good for us to know. It's probably in there really just for Chalice. Alright, and here you go, opponent. What can you do? This deck is so sweet. You just swing in with giant creatures that cost next to nothing. I totally had those graveyards open the whole time. And our opponent's kind of deciding what they can do. They have 1 card in hand. Now they're up to 2. The max damage they can... I mean, they can Lava Spike Skullcrack, and that will do it. Lightning Helix. No? I don't know why they tapped for white. Okay. I think they were just bluffing that they had the Skullcrack. Okay. Well, let's move on to the third game. So, our game plan against our opponent's deck went pretty well. I'm not really sure if bringing in Memoricide would be good. I mean, yes, it's really, really good to get rid of our opponent's game plan, but at the cost of 4, this is... it's really hard to justify. Of course, you know what? I think we go up the Memoricides, and we will go down... Yeah, I think we're going to go down the Eater of Days. It's slow, just like Memoricide, and it also dies to Destructive Revelry, so it's a little more fragile than we'd like it to be. Alright, Game 3 against Burn. Okay, so we have a Memoricide. We have 3 of the 4 lands required for it, which is great. We have 2 orbs and a tutor. I think we'll keep this. Plus, I'm not really entirely sure that our opponent knows to play around Sundial, so actually might even just throw that one out there before the orb. Depends on what I draw in the next turn. Well, 2 turns. Okay, so our opponent throws out a fast land, and they spike us. We're going to throw out that and pass the turn to our opponent. Sudden Spoiling could have come out, come to think of it, but it is a nice fog against a giant Swift Spear. Okay, so our opponent has another fast land, and they're going to Helix us. Nope, Boros Charm. Okay, I'm going to run out Sundial and pass it over to our opponent. We now have all the lands required to do the Memoricide. Now next turn, if we don't have a target, we will tutor up a Horror, because I think that's just the biggest card in our deck, and they just can't deal with it. Okay, so we're getting another Lava Spike. We're down halfway, and they cast an Eidolon. Okay. So we have nothing that we can actually cast for value this turn. Right now I'm going to Transmute. Since it's an ability, we don't cast it. And let's see. I think we're going to grab the Horror. And we will pass the turn to our opponent. They already have probably more lands than they'd prefer at this point. Okay, so they're going to get in for 2 with Eidolon. We're getting close to being in the danger zone. They don't have the mana for Destructive Revelry, so I don't have to worry about that. I think my best course of action right now is to throw out the Horror, go down to 6, and do we get burnt out? Well, we'll see if they try to do something on our turn. So difficult. They could make me exile my own Horror off the stack if they throw a lot of burn at me, just to help me preserve my life total. Let's see what they do. Okay, so we are going to have it resolve, apparently. Which, I mean, I guess I didn't really expect it not to. Okay, so now it's our opponent's turn. We have a giant creature, but we are dead to any two burn spells. It looks like our opponent's drawing a lot more lands than they'd like, because they just passed the turn right over to us, which is great for us. Like, this buys us some time. It's so valuable this time. Okay, so we have another land. We're going to run that out there, and then we're going to cast Memoricide. Okay, so the card we're going to name. Oh, there's so many. I think we're gonna go for Helix right now, just because. No, it's any 2 spells get us. So I mean, Boros Charm's a high hitter, but it doesn't matter because any still. Yeah, all right. So Destructive Revelry, I guess, would be okay, but I'd rather. I think Destructive Revelry doesn't do too much. Let's just get rid of their Bolt, right? Or you know what? No, they're Lightning Helix. I don't want them gaining life. Okay, so there goes their Lightning Helixes. They have a Destructive Revelry and a Deflecting Palm in their hand, and I'm so glad I saw that, because we would have swung in with our Horror and died. Nope, no we wouldn't have. Okay, so our opponent really thinks that Deflecting Palm's got us. So we're going to swing in anyways, and then we'll end the turn in response to it. Just get it out of their hand. But that's something we always want to keep a mana up for, definitely. And so we're going to swing in. We're expecting fully for them to Deflecting Palm it. Here it comes. They're taking damage. I'm going to let the damage resolve. And then I'm going to Sundial and remove Deflecting Palm from the stack. Sundial's really got its uses. Okay, so they have a Swift Spear. They're taking some damage from Eidolon. Okay, so they're going to get in for 3. Ugh. So the Destructive Revelry is the only card in their hand we don't know. I mean, the only card that we do know. Okay, so we drew a land, which doesn't really help us too much. So let's just take a second to think about this. We hold it back on defense. We're assuming that our opponent doesn't just draw any 3 damage spell. Because if we don't hold it back on defense, we automatically lose. I can't run out another creature. I suppose I could. Okay, so I know he's got Destructive Revelry. Say he draws a land. I'm still going to take at least 1 damage from the Horror. I mean, not from the Horror, from like the Swift Spear at the very minimum. Whereas if I throw the Avatar out there, I've got a quicker clock. Yeah, I mean, of course I can always see what they're gonna swing in with. Yeah, all right. We'll try to have. It's so difficult. It's probably not going to matter in the long run, but we'll keep him back on defense. If at all possible, I am going to block the Swift Spear. Right now they have Destructive Revelry and they're about to draw a unknown. Okay, so what does our opponent get? Lightning Bolt. And that will do it. Alright, thank you for watching. This has been Ted with Giant Monster Games, and I'll see you in the next video.